Hey guys, it's Adam here from Adam Warren Media, and today we're going to be looking at how to edit and enhance your own sunset images in Lightroom and Photoshop. Let's go. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an image that I took in Paris earlier in the year, and what we're going to do is I'm going to look at doing something like turning this photo into something like this photo. So obviously you have to capture the initial information and make the image as best as you can in the camera itself. But then to me that's just a starting point. You can obviously go way beyond that when you do get into post-processing and editing, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. Before I do get started, please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as on Instagram as well. I really appreciate it if you follow my page. I post daily all different kinds of photos. Right, so let's jump in. So we're going to start by going into the develop module with this image, and once I've removed chromatic aberration and enabled profile corrections, it recognises the lens and removes any sort of distortion from the corners. First thing I'm going to do really is to just, reduce the highlights down to about -45. So I'm just going to take this down slightly to just bring back some information from the clouds. We can go further, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that a little bit later on once I go into Photoshop. So that's that. And then I'm going to leave everything else as far as exposure, contrast here, because I can do the majority of the editing in the tone curve. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the highlights part of the tone curve. This RGB tone curve specifically deals with brightness and darkness, and all I'm going to do is just going to, around the highlights point, I'm just going to bring this down to really bring back some detail that was originally captured when I first took the photo. You can see the difference already in the sky. It brings back sort of the sun rays from there, and also brings back some detail here as well. I could also increase the shadows slightly, and that will again just even it out, add a bit of contrast and bring back some detail, maybe like around here too. So once I've done that, I'm also going to go specifically into the different channels. So I'm just going to bring up the blackest point, so basically where the blacks are in the image, and make those more red, like so. I'm just going to add a little bit there so you can just see where the black is. It's now just turning that little tint of red. And then I'm just going to move the whitest points and add a bit of red into there as well, so you can see specifically around here that that's now doing that. This is before the tone curve, and this is after. Okay, so that tends to do with regards to the greens, and then I'm just going to come back over to the blues, and here I'm going to look at the mid-tones. So this is kind of something in between. If you take this point here, you can see sort of on this curve what's being affected, and I'm going to look more around sort of the sky area. I mean, it is very much mainly darks and whites and highlights in this, but I'm just going to add some slight blue to the mid-tones as well. And that's everything I need to do so far in Lightroom. So now I'm going to move into Photoshop. I'm going to hit Command E or Control E if you're using a Windows keyboard, and it's just going to load the image up into Photoshop. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a range of adjustment layers, and that's going to affect different parts of this image. So I'm just going to hit Command 0 to make it into a full picture, and I'm going to take the first slider. So the first one I'm going to use is the levels adjustment layer, and this is going to specifically affect the sun only. So what we'll do is I'm going to take the midpoint, and I'm just going to move that over to the right, as you can see there. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so you can, it's a little bit clearer. So what you'll see from here is that it's affected everything. Don't worry about that. what I do is first of all, you make the adjustment and you look specifically to where you want the adjustment to be. Then, with the mask still selected, hit Command or Control and then I, and that inverts it, and black basically erases that whole setting that you've just set. And now, I'm just going to paint in specifically where I want that to be affected. So, my opacity is about 55% and 80% with the flow, and I'm just going to slowly enhance that so you can see the difference where it's being painted in. Just around the sun, and that just gives it that like extra highlight, that extra tint. And then as I come out of this a little bit, I'm just going to reduce the flow, reduce the opacity slightly, just so it fades out a bit more naturally as well. So that's all I need to do first. Then I'm also going to take the curves adjustment layer, and now I'm going to affect the sun and clouds. So all I really want to do here again is just affect the highlights. I'm just going to bring the highlights down. Again, it's going to add a lot more detail back into the image. And again, don't worry about the foreground and the river here. I'm only looking specifically at the sky. So and once I'm happy with that, again, I'm going to invert the mask. It's going to erase it. I'm going to just make this brush a little bit bigger. And then, because I'm not going to waste too much time on this, I'm just going to increase the flow, and then I'm just going to paint in the effect again where I want it to go. Sometimes if you can't always see the effect, especially if the opacity is quite low, one thing that I like to do is hold down the Alter Option key, and then actually click on the mask, and you can see just the mask where it's been affected. If it's grey, it's had some effect. If it's black, it's not had any effect. And white just means the effect is fully painted in here. So obviously I can't do this fully without seeing the full picture. So again, just hit Option and it brings it back. Again, all I'm doing is just painting in specifically where I want the preset effect to go into. And once I've done that, yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Now, before I come back into Lightroom, I'm just going to use one more hue saturation adjustment layer this time. I'm going to increase the saturation to really enhance the sunset in terms of its colour. Let's bring that right up to about 24, 25. But this also affects the foreground as well, unless again I add another mask on here, which I'm not going to do because I quite like that effect this time. So to see the before and after on the Photoshop edits, just hold down the Shift key, select them all, then hold down the Alter Option key, hit the eye in the background, and you can really see where it's made that difference there, before and after. So that's about it. If I had a little bit more time, I could also get rid of these little lens flare effects using the clone stab tool, but I'm going to leave that for now. And then all you do is just save it. Once it's saved up here, I'm going to come back into Lightroom, and the full effect will be back in Lightroom. So almost done with this image. What I'm going to do is going to finish it off with a bit of split toning to just add, again, enhance the magenta on here. So you've got the choice between the highlights up here, highlights, or the shadows, and where you want to add colour specifically to. So again, we're going to work specifically on the highlights, and I'm just going to create a kind of magenta-y type of tone. I'm not going to add too much magenta, just enough to really enhance that image, and then I'm going to stop. I'm just going to add a bit of red to the shadows too, and then I'm going to finish this off with a bit of sharpening. So initially you just click on the amount, drag it slightly to basically start all the other settings. Then I'm going to hold down the Option key, drag the mask. Again, black is where it won't affect, white is where it will affect. And once you set the mask, that's when you want to add some sharpening. So I like to bring this down, or zoom in basically to about 100%. again, this just really brings out the detail in the clouds, especially around the edges. Also, I also look at the ISO. ISO 100 means that it's not going to create too much noise if we do go a bit further with the sharpening. You're not going to get that grain as you would if it was very low light. So this was before the sharpening was added, and this is after. You can see a big difference in the sky there. And that is about it. So what I'm going to do is just show you the before, which I'm going to go into this one here. So this is the before, and this is the after. Again, it's bringing down the highlights and really adding colour, being specific on where you want the effect to be. And the best thing to do really is to just use the combination of Lightroom for things like developing and doing sort of the main edits, and then Photoshop will allow you to just take things that a little bit further as well. So I'm quite happy with that, and I hope you liked it as well. If you did and you'd like to see more of these videos, please feel free to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And if you like the video, hit like as well, and I'll be back for more videos very soon. Thanks a lot.